and the spiritual director to explain our Meenakshi Amman function. Thank you.
Good evening. This is a wonderful blessing to all of us. First time in front of Chandi Homa, we dressed mothers. What's the significance of Meenakshi Ambika? Many of you may not know because many of you look new to me. Those of you who has been involved from the beginning, they know the historical significance of Mother Meenakshi. 50 or more years ago, she came during the Nadi. You know what Nadi is? Bhrigu Samhita. At that time she said, when the time comes, I will let you participate in the construction of my house for the protection of the world. This won't be in this century, it'll happen next century. But before the end of the century, I'll come to you and ask for something, and you do the way I ask you. That was over 50 years ago. That information is given. I don't know how many of you know. There are many Nadi readings. There are many of them. Many rishis have Nadi. Agastya Maharishi, Kakapujangar. This Nadi was called Meenakshi Naadi. So the information came from Mother Meenakshi. Ganesha asks Mother Meenakshi, give me the story of the soul. In this life, what do you have for him? Then she gives the answer. It can happen to you. There are many, but this particular person, some of you have seen him, great soul. His name is Nalla Kuruntappa Swami. Some of you might have seen him. Wonderful Nadi reader. In the Nadi itself, the scroll, there's not that much information. She has to come and directly communicate with the reader. So he reads a lot more than what is written there. That is direct communication from the Devata. It will be through Yakshinis, Mohinis, Vidyadharas, intermediary cosmic energy. But to me, anything non-human is divine. I give them same respect to everyone because they're not in our world. So there she said, I will come to you. That was 50 years ago. Naturally, I forgot. I'm a doctor making a living here, teaching and doing research and practicing. So that left me. But the impact of her always stayed. I always saw her, Mother Meenakshi. I don't go to Madurai that often, but she'll always come. Then 25 years ago, there is a lady you saw yesterday here. You may not remember. Her name is Dr. Christine Keski. She's an American physician. About 1994, she started appearing. I didn't even know who it was. It was Mother Meenakshi. She said, time has come now. Get ready. What you need, you don't know. I will teach you. I will tell you. Do exactly what I say. That was for 27 nights she came. Then I was getting ready. In the meantime, she knew, Mother knew, I needed a Shakti aspect. I cannot do it myself. Feminine aspect. She chose Dr. Keski, and some of you saw her. Very devoted lady, very spiritual lady. She was born Christian, she was born American, a very distinguished physician, Dr. Keski. So she came to me and I said, Doctor, you were very close before that. She came to me and said, who is that Devata who comes? Then she described me, then I knew it was Mother Meenakshi, reminding me, and I needed a feminine aspect to do the certain things we had to do. And that's she chose. So after that we went to, it's a long story. I don't have time to, many actors are involved, including Mahapiriya was involved at that time. And she met him before he passed away. I don't know how many of you know Mahapiriya, Sankaracharya, not the last one, the one before. And he involved a guru. So mother told me, you do not know, you are in the different world. You cannot come and build my house. You have to be in my world. But I'll teach you, I'll get you the people involved. So for that, you have to have the mantra, tantra, and yantra. Without that, you can't come to my world and know what I want, how I want. Because this is going to be for all the devotees, for you. For you, she's doing it, and for the world, she's doing it. So to make a long story short, many sacrifices went on. And then that guru who had to give that mantra and the yantra came here. He's not supposed to even leave the country. He was a mentor for Chidambaram, Nataraja's Dikshadars. There are many Dikshadars, many priests. They take turn. He was a guru for them. His name is Swarna Venkateshwara Dikshadhar. He was not even supposed to live. Wonderful soul. He was very close to Mahapriyava. And when people come to Mahapriyava and say, we are going to build a temple, please come and consecrate, he will say, go to Swarna Venkateshwar. If he makes the yantra, then I'll come and consecrate, because I know the divine can be there. But yantras are very important. That kind of a person. He came and he gave, when mother said, go and ask him, Mother Meenakshi said, go and ask him, he will do what he needs to do. So when I went and asked him, I knew him before, he denied the whole knowledge. He denied the whole things. He said, I'm a Brahmin priest, I'm a guru. I don't know these things. These things are done by mystics. I'm not a mystic. I said, but she says only you have to help me. Otherwise, I'm an ignorant person. I'm a doctor living a normal life. Spiritual, yes. For a long time, I've been in spiritual path. So he denied it. It took almost a year for me to go. Then finally she said, tell him this information. He has a yantra. He denies the existence of yantra. You need it. You need it for you. You may not get to see the yantra. It's a very mystical yantra. It is yours. And then she said, this is the day, 1912, I think. I gave that to him through his guru. Go and tell him to look at the back of the yantra on this full moon day, thinking of me. He would know how I gave it to him. So when I went to ask him, he gave me proper respect for the first time. Because people can't even sit with him. You sit at his feet. He's that kind of a person. But that day, when I told him, he said, she said, that's the day. She gave me the date. She gave it to me. This is the date she gave it to me. Then he said, come tomorrow. I have to ask Ganesha. I was so ignorant, I didn't even know which Ganesha he's talking about. He said, must be a very important person, so he wants a permission to give it to me. Next day I went, for the first time he said, you sit next to me. You don't sit at my feet anymore, because Ganesha has given you. He has told me, you have Tagudi. The first time I heard the term, you may know. Tagudi means qualification. Ganesha has given his permission that I can. So first time he even admitted he was using that for so many temples in India. With Mahapriyava together, they consecrated hundreds of temples all over the country. And then he said, I will give that to you and I'll come with you to that place. He's not supposed to leave. Tradition is they cannot leave, they cannot cross oceans. That is a tradition. And if they do, they cannot go back and do what they did. But he was beyond being a priest. He was a mystic. He was a guru for all the priests in Chidambaram temple. They call him Nataraja. They will never call him by name, because Nataraja is very manifest. That was Ishtadevata. He was a Nataraja. And they were a long relationship. He came 3 times, stayed 6 years, made sure every deity is properly made and proper yantras are made for them. He's a yantra maker. Yantra maker has to be very unique. He has to know the deities personally, and vibrations he has to draw as various shapes, lotuses, triangle, straight line, all the various. They are like a software floppy disks, and he has to put the data in them. That's a real yantra. So he gave that to me, initiated me, he gave the mantra. Here, whatever she asked me, I told you. Then we started building it. 1994, 1999, she said, you have to complete, because things are going to change, terrible things will happen to the world. So you have to bring me and my aspects, millions of my aspects. The chakra she gave, that was made at Mookambika temple. Thousands of years, that person who made the yantra for Mookambika temple made this specially for us under their instruction. And the Shilpi we chose after, there is his family sitting, the chief man. He's not a Shilpi. His brother is a wonderful soul, one of the most distinguished Shilpi. I chose him after 4 years of looking. Then she said, he cannot do that. He said, you got to get Vishwakarma. You know who Vishwakarma is? Vishwakarma is a cosmic energy, it's not human. Heavenly architect. So when Brahma is given the creative power, he needed somebody to make the buildings, to make the world, to make all the buildings in the world, whatever needed, mountains, rivers, whatever needed to the world. So Vishwakarma is another deva. So he chose Vishwakarma. She's telling me you have to get him. to build my house. Is it practical? I don't even know. I knew about Vishwakarma. Then she gave me a mantra. You bring that, his brother, wonderful person, very spiritual, psychically sensitive person. So he said, you bring him to my house. That time we built the house already by 1999. And you do a special homa. Invoke Vishwakarma. And Vishwakarma will give him the knowledge of what is needed by me. Now, anything, is it possible? Impossible, unless she wants it. She is so kind to us, kind to each one of you. You are here. You are invited by her. You earned the rights for probably a million years, that many lifetimes you had, 840,000 lifetime, almost a million. Each lifetime, even if it's 50 years average, that's still a long time. So that, in a nutshell, is a story of her origin. That means the prime deity is Mother Meenakshi. There she is standing there. Where she said, you won't call me, this is before it is built, you call me as Mahamari, Karumari, Parashakthi, Adi Parashakthi, Karumari Ambiga. Now, you know the meaning of Karumari? The dark energy, Karu. Mari is a transformation from Brahman to Saguna Brahman. Without the transformation, you will never know. You won't exist, because Parabrahman you cannot comprehend, you cannot relate to. It has to be made into Saguna Brahman. That part she does. That's why she's called Mari, Mahamari, Mahamayi. So you call me that, Mahamari, Karumari Ambiga, Parashakti Karumari Ambiga. That is a beautiful term. Karu Mari Ambiga. That's the way I refer to her. And she would come there as a prime deity. But till now, she always taken a position when she's hidden. She doesn't manifest. You know the reason? She said, I'm a very ritualistic deity. People who come to me to get my grace, they have to go through many rituals. They won't be capable in this country. So I take that form, Karumari Ambiga, I take that form and come through her. But they're all one. There's only one thing is reality. All this Devi. Devi is only reality, and she manifests trillion forms. The first manifestation would be the Bindu. That is Tirumurti. The Bindu, then she transcends down to trillion devatas, and us, and every life form. We totally, it will be many trillions life form. She comes. Through us, she experiences herself. Otherwise, she is all alone. She was the only thing which existed as a pure consciousness. Then she came to us as our Atman. That means that's the only part which is her, the Atman. So we should strive to realize that, not our mind, body, intellect, all this will go. Another 30 years, I'll be gone. I'll be a memory. Many of you may be too. But we always exist eternally if we realize that. You got to identify ourselves with an Atman, and that comes from her. So that is journey. Self means Atman, realization, because that's the only part of her in us. But we develop other through the mind, because we are human. We can comprehend, we have abstract thinking, we can go back and study. See how much we know about the universe. You know, from the origin, except the first 300,000 years, 14 billion years, we have conceptualized, comprehended many things will happen. Actually, this period you should know. The Navaratri period, the constellations always move. You know, there's 27 constellations. Science knows only about 14 or 13. They will find out many more. You know, one constellation will have 10,000 suns. Huge constellation. They keep traveling. During this Navaratri, they look at the earth. They come closer vibrationally to the earth. So rishis have figured out. So they chose the day and the time for Navaratri, because that constellation carries all these deities. Can you imagine one constellation is 10,000 suns? Huge. In that, the mother exists. Same thing with Surya. Why Surya Bhagavan? I call him Surya Bhagavan. Surya Bhagavan is Divine Mother. The only thing of Divine Mother you can see every day is sun. That is the reason we do Surya Namaskaram. I have a short way of doing it. I do it every day. Think of him not as a Surya, not as a nuclear furnace. As a nuclear furnace, yes, necessary, needed. Without that, we can't exist physically. But I look at him, sun, as a consciousness, Surya Narayana. So all these are very meaningful, psychologically very true, And realistically, it's very true. So you think of the Creator, and the only aspect of her I can see with my eyes would be the Surya. So we give him so much. But that's a very small aspect of Divine Mother. She has given the house, built the house. It's going to be a magnificent house. Once we completed it, you will see the magnificence of how nicely she has placed all this deity, all her aspect, many, many newer aspect, because she said, world is going to through a major crisis in this century. So bring me all my aspect in a meaningful way, which can protect you from that evil, from the Asuric energy, which will manifest. You may ask me, why all this now? Simple, it's the Kali Yuga. What do you expect? Kali Yuga, this is the way it will be. It'll get worse and worse and worse. Last century, we lost 100 million people. I don't know if you know that. It may be meaningless. 100 million people we lost between First, Second World War. How many Stalin killed? How many Hitler killed? How many Mao Zedong killed? If you calculate total amount, it comes to close to 100 million. This century, when the catastrophe happens, which it will, it'll be 500 million. It's a joystick war. No more battlefront. No more tanks attacking other time. It'll be all sitting in Washington, Moscow, and Beijing. It'll be joystick war. Like the game you play, it'll be like that. And the casualty would be in billions. But we will be protected because she has said, you build this house and make me come in 1,000 different forms. And each one will protect you. These would be the devatas. And ironically, many of us may even go to that world and live in that world if you properly understand the self and grow up. Grow up. I'm also growing up. Grow up, you can be a deva. You can go to that world which is totally separated. At the time of birth, you are enslaved. You are encumbered. You only know your name, your form, your father, grandfather, your neighbor. That's all. You really don't identify ourselves with Mother to that point where every life form is us. Then we become immortal. She's teaching us how to be immortal. Don't be immortal. That'll be only 100 years. I call it temporary shelter, short-term rental. We have short-term rental. Make it long-term. Realize yourself. Connect to her. Get her grace. To that end she has come. So much kindness. And then let us experience her. Experience her in that form. Every aspect. The green is very important. Every color. Look at the blue. Nilavani Ambika on top. Look at the red. Each color is very significant scientifically. I'm talking about vibrationally aspect of each color. Colors are very important. So this theme would be Nila Lolita. Nila, Saraswati, Lolita red, they are here. So everything is very meaningful. She chooses. We are not capable of knowing all this and choosing all that. Even the deities who are going to come, they're very, I don't have the time to go into it. They're all mystical. They're not planned by a human. We don't plan and say this deity would come. She would plan, she will make sure we get them. Some of them I never even heard of until a few years ago, long after she came. So today she has come, she has shown herself. She is a prime deity, but she manifests like Mahamai, Karumari, and we have all three of them. The Homa Kunda is specially made for her, and Chandi Homa will invoke all the devatas. All millions of them will come, and some of you had the blessing to be here last Chandi Homa. Come next Monday. It happens to be a weekday, but we don't have any option. So this is a short view of how she manifested. I can't even begin to explain all the depth of things she did. Many, many mystical things. Can you imagine inviting Vishwakarma? And strangely, that mantra we used to invoke Vishwakarma to give him all the knowledge, I can't even remember one bija from the mantra. The whole mantra was given, we invoked, and you are not here. His brother was here. And he cannot remember, I cannot remember, the priest cannot remember, because this thing cannot be remade anymore, cannot be made anymore. So that person, I told you, Abbani's cousin came to him and said, can you build that Rajagopuram exactly the way it is in Bombay? And he can afford, he lives in 150,000 square feet home in Bombay, most expensive real estate. He's worth about 20 billion. What is 20 billion? Look at Steve Jobs. 1 minute, he left about 20 billion worth of Apple stock, disappeared. There's no connection anymore. It's gone. Temporary. That's what it is. That money is of no consequence. But anyway, your brother told him, I can't do that. The man got very upset. He said, I'll give you any number of crores. You just reproduce it for me. Then he said, I cannot do them because I cannot control Vishwakarma. Vishwakarma is a deity. He's a construction. He's a heavenly architect. How could I pay him? How would I know him? How would he give it to me, all the information? Look at that. So we are very special people. Whoever comes here, and they will come only if Mother invites you. You may not know that. She has to invite you. That's why I'm very affectionate to you, because you're special people. You are touched by Mother. And that doesn't happen very often. 7 billion people in the world. How many people I would know? Maybe 1,000, 2,000, 10,000. But they won't be touched by Mother. They will be life forms, nice, good form. They are growing up. They are growing up. But you people have reached certain level of growth, enough to be invited by her, enough to know the story, enough to come and worship her, enough to participate in all the devatas. There are so many intermediaries. She has brought all of them, beginning with her, Trimurtis, many, many millions of devatas, and many rishis. Rishis are very important because they conveyed many deep truths. All the mantras are given by them. And then 2 days ago, when I was doing Chandi Homa, she says, don't forget this Maharishi. Think of him, Kratos. I don't know how many of you heard Maharishi Kratos. He is the one who mediates all the rituals we do. So many rituals we do. He is the Rishi who represents the ritual. So Agastya Bhagavan told me, think of him every time you come to the temple and do the ritual. Think of him, because you represent all these people. They all getting the benefit. If you don't do proper thing, they won't get that much benefit. They'll come mechanically, look at me, adore me, and go. To get my grace, my plan, execute that, you have to bring that Maharishi. That means I have to think of him very deeply. So I went to Himalayas 2 months ago to find him. He must have lived during Saraswati civilization, which started probably 15,000 years and disappeared 5,000 years ago. But it's a river. But river had the consciousness. It existed that long. He must have lived that time. So I had to go there. He is in Jiva Samadhi. These beings never die. They're eternal. And do the mantra, then come. We'll go there. So I just gave you just a gist of who she is, what she is, how blessed you are, how important it is for us to show our love, our affection, our reverence, and bhakti. That's all she needs. She doesn't need anything. You would need it to take her. She doesn't. She will give you everything. All the food is prepared, given to you through prasadam. But we have to consume it. That we have to do it. Take it and put it in our mouth and enjoy it. That's today's. So enjoy it. I have to go down to the music program to acknowledge them. And congratulations.
Thank you, Doctor.
Vishwama. Please.